What is good, people? We are back for episode 64, Quinny, of the End Product Podcast. We're here a day early again, as it is the summer holidays. Quinny and I having to shuffle our schedules about quite a bit. We were a day or two early last week as well, weren't we, Quinny? Because both of us were off on our world tour, world domination tour of world domination. What have you been up to, Quinny, since we last spoke? You and I have been doing some globetrotting.
Well, probably the main thing is we had the Sorare Sevens kind of community meet up at the weekend, which was all good crack. It timed in pretty well. I had a wee family excursion planned for the actual week itself, so that finished off right on the day before, so that was all nice and fun. So I had a wee bit of time with the family, squeeze a last little bit of summer in before the football resumes, which I'm sure we'll get to in plenty of time in the podcast today as well. But the Sevens event was spectacular. I did a bit of a podcast thing there as well, which, you know, I don't know if it was good or not. Maybe people that were there could maybe comment on that. I don't know. But I managed to record it all, and there'll be a video that will go out on the channel for that. So if you did miss it, maybe you'll get a wee flavour of it. But it was, it was like 6 or 7 teams. It was really well attended. We had some great prizes from Sorare, by the way. You know, there was like
all the pictures. Yeah, I was jealous. Some pretty good
signed shirts, match tickets, hats, all sorts of good stuff. A wee message from Nicholas as well, which was cool. And I said great venue, great charity as well. All the raffle tickets people paid for to get into the raffle for all the shirts and stuff. I went for Andy's Man Club charity. Yep. It's just like a men's mental health thing or whatever, and it was over $1,000 to get raised. So great event on like a lot of dimensions, you know, on the pitch, off the pitch, as I've seen in a little tweet yesterday, you know. So yeah, a great couple of days. Met some amazing people. Honestly, that's one thing I did want to say on the podcast is I got to meet some absolute legends around. Too many to mention, right? And again, because of the football environment as well, a lot of people, like people come up and introduce you, and you get a mixture of names and Twitter handles, and then it's like you remember, that guy was called, Ian or something, and then you remember, that's, so. My memory is not great at the best of times, so I did struggle to keep track of a lot of people. But my team was fun. My team was good fun. I had DB Sports in my team, which is quite a big account. If you go and check his gallery out, he used to make some content as well for a little minute. He was in my team. He was he got me out of jail quite a few times. I don't mind telling you. He cleaned up my mess a few times. And it was him, our goalkeeper, and then our 2 guys all kind of seemed to know each other. And then we had myself, Josh, who also makes some content, and I forget our striker's name, who was up top, and he scored. He was probably, in his heyday, they've definitely been our best player. No 2 ways about it. I've totally went blank on names now. And so I started following people back on Twitter as well, and I'm getting Twitter handles and names all over the shop. But we had a really good team, and we got to the semi-final, despite me being in goals for 2 games, which was fun. I made a wee bit of a mistake, but Stish, right? And it's also an excuse, right? This mistake, right? So I'm getting it in a little bit, right? I was terrible, and I even said after the first game to the team I was in, I was like, guys, the biggest mistake we made in that game was you gave the ball to me too much. Like that was clearly where that game was when I lost, because I still had I had to go get boots for the Liverpool thing, and I didn't really know what. I don't really know what kind of surface we were going to be on, but we got there, and it's like it's a stadium. It's like on the pitch, Eccleston Town, their actual pitch. I was like, oh, cool, I've got boots, brilliant. I'll be well equipped for this. And it didn't really dawn on me until I was getting changed, and I looked in my bag, and I seen I had multi-surfaces with me. I was like, oh man, I was wearing big, studded boots, and it was like the black plastic bobbly 4G
5G,
synthetic.
4G, yeah.
And see all the bad stuff I'd done, and I did a lot of it, but it was like not getting my foot under the ball, and then you're just like every touch is off your left. It looks like you're left-footed constantly, even though you're hitting with your right. If you get me, some of those passes, and I say it was one of those ones where I was like, oh man, if I could do all that again, I probably would have. But it was a great time, great fun was had by all, and next time it's on, I highly encourage anyone to get involved.
Yeah, I saw some pictures. Look great. The prizes looked fantastic. The turnout looked really good. The summer, it looked like you had the weather there as well. So, but yeah, I can attest to playing on those all-weather surfaces. I've only really until recently sort of kicked about on them with my son because he trains on them all the time. But yeah, I had to play in a charity game a few months back, and that was the same. It was the first time I'd ever played on a full-size 5G pitch. and the first thing I did was try and do a slide tackle on it in the blazing sun. Oh my god! I had like a full blown like big burns all the way down my leg.
Those ones.
Oh yeah, exactly like that. I seen Haber post a picture.
Haber had a
Yeah,
baddie.
he
That
had
was
one
against,
almost the same
was that
as
against
mine.
my
on the
team?
calf,
That was
right
against my
on-
team, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, as well.
It's
Haver get nutmegged an absolute peach, by the way.
really.
Haver get megged an absolute beast. It was hilarious.
Oh man,
That was great banter. There was a lot of good stuff. Goal line clearances, last man tackles. It was all happening.
some big SO5 performances then, by the sounds of it.
Oh, for sure, man. Great banter all over the place. Great fun.
Yeah,
But yourself, Stishy, you were on a bit of a tour as well, mate. What were you
man,
up to?
so since we last spoke, I was in sort of like the outskirts of Malaga for a wedding, and I didn't see him, but Nicky Butt was at the wedding venue just before we got there. It's probably for the best that I didn't see him because I'd had a few drinks at that point and I'd have been chewing his ear off. But yeah, it was in sort of Malaga area, really nice hotel. Went there for the wedding, was out there for a couple of days. It went so quick, it didn't feel like that we were there that long at all. Then so flew home Friday night, landed at Gatwick after a little bit of a delay. Then when we landed at Gatwick, there's all rail strikes and stuff, so it took a bit longer to get back to my house in Croydon from Gatwick, which is usually a really quick trip. But by the time I got home, I had a flight first thing in the morning to Croatia on Saturday. So I went home, had about an hour's sleep, packed a bag, and then got back to the same airport I'd just come from to get on a flight out to Croatia for Outlook Festival. And I've been there from Saturday till got home yesterday, like lunchtime. So that was great. A lot of artists and people that I know and have known for a long time. It's one of those festivals that it's in Croatia every year. It's been going for about 15, 16 years now, I think. And I've played there a lot of times. So a lot of the artists that play there get booked quite regular. So it's a little bit like a big reunion party when you go there, but in the sun in another country. So yeah, it was great. They've sort of downsized it. So they've moved it to a new site compared to where it's been in the past. So it's a smaller festival, but it's a really well contained, nowhere's too far to walk. Whereas before it used to be sprawling. You could be walking 20 minutes to get from one stage to another, go a whole weekend without seeing any of your mates. This one, it's like 3 stages and boat parties, and everything was like in this area that everything was within a couple of minutes walk from it. It was really good. So yeah, I had a great few days there. Managed to get my SO5 teams in as well. Just about
Well done.
doing that. Did that on the morning after the wedding. So I sort of like done my team building before I went to the wedding, knowing full well that morning you wake up with the deadline, you're probably not going to be in particularly great spirits to sit there on your phone for an hour and a half trying to get your team sorted out. So I made a few schoolboy errors in terms of like my Sorare selections. Some really weird ones where like, I had some good super rare teams, but then a couple of poor ones where there was a couple of definite DMPs. And for whatever reason, I've stuck like my strongest forward option in my Cap 220 that had a blatant DMP in it. Instead of putting him in, I think it was my all-star super rare team, in which if I'd have put him in there, the other forward I put in was a bit more of a rotation risk, like first game for a new club. And yeah, lo and behold, they did exactly what I expected. The new player came on at half time, which was better than I expected, to be fair. And Chukovin, my main guy, managed a decisive. So yeah, but I did manage to scrape the ETH threshold in super rare. So that felt like a big win still. So even though I've been away and haven't been as engaged with the world of Sorare until today, I managed to scrape a bit of end product for the lads. Did you manage any end product, Quinny, while you were on your travels?
I have had an absolute nightmare when I was on my travels because of the whole Leagues Cup and games and what games are covered and whatever. So when we left, I didn't realise I hadn't put somebody in who had a game, or I made some sort of critical error like that for the midweek when I was away. And then I was like, right, let's make sure for the weekend or the next game week, I'm well set and covered. And I didn't really have that much going on. And then again, like kind of forgot about it. There was notifications coming in and I seen people moaning about it all. I didn't really understand it, and I didn't really have time to pay attention. You know, juggling kids and traveling around and doing all that kind of stuff. You know, because the deadline's 11 a.m. Friday now, obviously not at lunchtime. So
That's it.
when you're traveling and you've got kids, like the morning, there's, you know, time is a prisoner. You know, to say the least. So totally evaded me. And then like the game week rolled, and I didn't play Sean Johnson, who was a playable goalkeeper. I didn't play somebody else, like a big hitter that got set. I didn't play two 70-point players, and I
Oh,
didn't play Sean Johnson. And the only competitive team I put out was a common team, basically. And like the team, if I did play it, it would have been like 320 points, maybe 325, depending on captain and stuff like that. But I don't know if that would have got me a card in All Star, because that is where I would have played it. But 320 in a kind of lightish game week, I was like, oh, man, I was kicking myself. And then
yeah.
coming into this game week, I made the same mistake again. I played Ryan Gold thinking he had a game, didn't realize all the kerfuffle about the games and whatever. And then the game week's locked. I've opened up Sorare Data app, Ryan Gold NG. There's games at the next bloody game week or whatever it is.
Oh,
And
of
I'm just
course
like,
it got moved around, didn't it? That's right.
oh, for the love of God, I've got some like good players actually running. I could have played somebody else. It's just like,
Pain.
frustration. So 3 game weeks on the bounce. It has been pain for
Oh,
me. So I cannot wait for the weekend. I see Jay. Fist bump to everyone that's in the live chat, joining the live recording on Twitch/Plastician, by the way. He's asking on a scale of 1 to 10 how buzzing we are for Saturday. So those last 3 game weeks is extra fuel that goes into my excitement for the weekend itself. So I'm 12 out of 10.
yeah. I was going to be. I was going to bug you off air about some tips and tricks for the SPFL reopening the weekend. Obviously, I've got access to Matt O'Reilly for the first time since winning him. And yeah, what are your thoughts on O'Reilly starting for Celtic? Let's do it live on the podcast because there might be other holders listening. I'd love a bit of insight into how you see Celtic's first starting 11 of the season looking, based on what you've seen in pre-season.
The very first thing I would say is if you do have Celtic cards in general and you're going to be following Celtic this season, the best place to go to on YouTube is Celtsar here, all one word. Every Monday or Tuesday, we do a Sorare Celtic Supporters Club, CSC, where we kind of just talk Sorare and talk cards and talk Celtic for an hour or so every week, which is good fun. But what we were saying last night, Stish, when we were on, because I know you'd have missed it because you're globetrotting. You've missed all the shit. We had James Forrest's testimonial last night against Athletic Bilbao. We've also had the tour of Japan. We played Wolves in Ireland as well, which was fun. And anyway, it's very clear now through pre-season, the front six, as we were kind of calling it on the stream, feels nailed at the moment, which is Rio, McGregor, O'Reilly, Dyson, Kyogo, Abada. Feels nailed his houses to be the starting, at least certainly for the weekend, and then for being the best 11. You know, if you're trying to finally predict a Celtic team and buy a Celtic stack or play Celtic in Sorare this year, that at least feels at the moment like a much more known quantity than what it was last year.
Feels like Hatate season for me from what I've seen in pre-season. He looks sharp. I don't know about you, but I've liked what I've seen of him. I used to have a Hatate forward card when he was at Frontale. Wouldn't mind having that again now, to be honest with you. He looks a player. I think he's got a big season ahead of him. Who are you excited for this season? Who are the Celtic fans buzzing about?
Rio, big time. And I think Abada, big time. In real, so talking about Celtic fan on the street, those two, 1,000%. But SO5 quarters and SO5 corners, for me, it's the main excitement is definitely around O'Reilly and Kyogo, because the shape, like Brendan Rodgers in general, I was saying this in the Celtic stuff, but this is general football fans. I've watched the Premier League will get this as well. But like Brendan fancies himself more as a tiki-taka Barcelona manager than a Jurgen Klopp or a Conte or even an Ange or something like that, or a Man City, the way they are now. Brendan's much more of a Barca kind of guy in terms of his vibes and what he's kind of all about. So I think for the midfield, we're going to see all of them get way more touches of the ball all over the pitch, you know, in defensive areas and in attacking areas. And the way off the ball, particularly last night against Bilbao, and I'm going to do a Celtic video about this so you can check it out on the channel in better detail. But like off the ball, we kind of had this like kind of pentagon shape. So if you can imagine like the double six in midfield or the two guys in midfield, the wingers and the number 10 making a kind of pentagon shape. And then O and Kyogo, both of them did this multiple times. They both played 45 minutes. Maybe they did it each once, twice, 3 times. They were coming in to the pentagon, if you like, and like getting in amongst the ball, getting the ball off our defence, or helping us turn the ball over if it was in a wee bit of a tight area. So they were coming in being the wild card, and then quickly turning round and playing a 1-2 with Turnbull, with O'Reilly, with somebody, whoever it might be, and then use that. Because then as a striker, they've got forward momentum. They're breaking the lines. They're not marked. They're not being tracked. They're going essentially from fullback or deep midfield all the way up to striker. So that felt like a nice pattern of play that we've seen, that you could see Celtic play against any team, really, a team that's better than us, weaker than us, giving us possession, not giving us possession, whatever. So I think O'Reilly's strength, particularly in that number 10 role, for Celtic, that number 10 role is going to be much more important. And I think that's why, like, Turnbull will play well this season. I think he'll have because he can do that. He can linger in that spot, play a one-touch give and go. He's quite smart in the final third, but O'Reilly's got that, but he's also got way more strength about him, way more presence. So he can do the deep stuff, because all three of these midfielders seem to be rotating around now. But that being said, that kind of pattern of play I just illustrated there for Kyogo, that's an extra 6 points of AA straight away.
Yeah.
He had no AA about him last year whatsoever. But if he does that twice a match and gets 2 goals, that's 82 points, 85 points or something like that. No problem at all.
Big shout, that.
It's a big difference from last season.
Forward with a bit of AA is gold dust, isn't it? And especially if you've got like a super rare of said forward and you're using them in those pro divisions, that AA really starts to compound when you add it to a goal or two. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that, and keeping an eye on the market as well. Yeah, we've had the start of the Belgian league as well. I don't know if you caught any of that, or if that had any effect on your own gallery, but for me personally, it was nice to see Al Hassan Yusuf starting again for Antwerp. He was a bit of it was a card I won at the end of, not last season, the season before. I didn't know a great deal about him. He came into the team the beginning of last season at Antwerp and was putting up huge AAs. He's like a really deep lying defensive mid, but he's got an assist or two in him. A bit like a Cruz in that sense, except minus the set pieces maybe. Very deep lying, quite dynamic, young, I think he's 20, 21 now. But then he got injured, and Vermeeren came in, and Vermeeren just kind of nailed himself in that starting lineup. And it meant that when Yusuf did come back through from injury, he was limited to some appearances off the bench only, really, for the last sort of maybe 2 to 3 months of the season. So I wasn't sure if I was going to get much use out of him again. It's a player that he was so good that I didn't want to let go of him, because I thought if he does get back in the team, or if he moves, because he'd been linked to a few clubs as well. But yeah, he's come back in. I think a couple of games under his belt now, putting up some nice green scores. So that almost felt like a new signing for me. Like in your gallery, when you've got one of those players who's sort of like revitalized or has had that summer's rest to really like get over an injury. Another little gem has been Anwar El Hajj, who moved from Anderlecht to Genk last season. Didn't see much game time there. I'd seen flashes of him in pre-season and little highlight clips and stuff from following those sort of like scouting channels on Twitter and stuff. His name came up a couple of times in the pre-season. But I didn't fancy him to get much game time at Genk, who, pretty solid lineups they've got there. A lot of competition for him in that side. But he, I think maybe because Genk have had those sort of qualifiers as well in between the league games, they've maybe done a bit more rotation. But Anwar El Hajj has seen quite a lot of minutes, and from what I've seen is impressed, and I feel like the fans have been quite quietly surprised by what they've seen so far. So that's been an interesting uptick in the gallery, just to see. I've had that card in my gallery for ages. I think I picked him up when he was 18 and Company was the manager at Anderlecht, and seen him play a couple of games there and thought this kid's gonna be amazing. And then he just kind of fizzled out a bit and lost his way and weren't even kind of finding minutes off the bench. But I'll be keeping a keen eye on him this season based on what we've seen. I think if Genk qualify for the Champions League, they've got their second leg against Servette tonight. So we'll know if they're going to edge towards qualification. They'll definitely have a few more fixtures ahead if they can get past this leg. And
Rangers next. The winner of this plays Rangers.
That's right. Yeah, we mentioned that, didn't we? Rangers. I mean, that's going to be a big game. Very tough fixture for Genk, I feel, that one. but a tough fixture for Rangers as well. I mean, how would you see that going if Genk edge?
Genk all the way. Van der Vert's not letting them score. Come on.
Yeah,
Van der Vert's not letting them score.
he's had a great start. The games he's played as well, like he's been putting up some great AA scores. I don't know, I haven't seen enough of the games to see what he's doing on those moments where he's not making saves, but he's put up some decent scores already this season, which has been really good. You know, as someone who's got a nice sort of U23 gallery, I lost a lot of goalkeepers to aging out this summer. So to have Van der Voort looks like, you know, the ace in the deck at the moment. I think if you are a big U23 goalkeeper, U23 player, he's definitely going to be one of the big goalkeepers this season. And you know, he's still got a couple. Is it 2 years of utility at U23? I think he's got at least one. I know he's 21 now, so depending on when his birthday is, I think he's got 2 more seasons. But yeah, quietly confident that he is going to be a stronghold for U23 managers this season.
I was going to say, Stishy, I think it's only appropriate on the podcast that we take a moment's silence to remember Kosi Tani, who is now went into Red X oblivion for a season.
Ugh.
So
Yeah,
if anyone listening to the podcast will join us for a moment's silence. Poor Tani.
We'll see you next week. Poor us. I'm probably the stupidest Tani holder on the platform because I rushed in first game of the J League season when he started and went and bought a super rare like off the bat. I'm like, right, that's it. Need a U23 goalkeeper for the season. Tani's starting. I knew enough about him that I thought, I don't care what it costs. He's the man. Let's get him in. Paid 1.75 ETH for his super rare. I think it's probably worth about 0.3 now, maybe less because he's like Red X. But I won't be getting rid of him at these prices. I think he's just going to have to be one of those cards that just sort of sits in the gallery next to Etienne Green on the benches of despair at Club Tropicana Drinks FC. What are you doing, Quinny? You're going to have to hold on to him, or are you going to be chopping him in?
No, I'll be holding on to mine. I've got the OG one of Tani, and I got a wee Red X guy who's a one of to get him up to the 2% kicker. So I'll be hanging on to mine and just waiting for him. Hopefully, it's just a 6-month thing. There was a transfer, Stish, that I seen in preparation for the podcast today. I thought, oh, Stish will be buzzing about this, I'm sure. And that is Julian Arajo's move to Las Palmas is confirmed. So you still got yours, don't you?
It's great because I've got Malero as well. So I've got 2 super rares,
Oh,
23s in the same team. So any bit of little midweek activity where if they're both nailed on, hopefully Araujo can like really show himself there. I mean, what I saw of him at Galaxy was great. I thought he was a really attacking minded right back, like a proper flying fullback. So yeah, I mean, I think the Barca move probably was a bit too soon for him. I thought it was a strange one when they picked him up when they did, but yeah, I'm happy with that. I think any manager who sees like a Red X removed, right? I know we just experienced the other way round with Tani, but when a Red X disappears and becomes a useful card again, that's a thing of beauty, isn't it? I've still got a few in my gallery that feel like Red X's that I'm just still waiting for a move. I think I've been holding on to Nat Phillips's super rare for about 3 seasons now, waiting for him to leave Liverpool, but Leeds have been linked heavily to him. So I'm fingers crossed that one goes through. But yeah, I was a bit gutted to find out as well on a personal one that Connor Cody's been injured in the last game or two. Looks like he's going to miss at least the start of the season. I was really looking forward to getting some use out of him at this stage. Was looking at the fixtures for the weekend. He was like heavily in my plans in like Rare Pro and Super Rare divisions, but there's not really been much noise about how long they expect him to be out. But there's been a lot of talk of disappointment from the manager that they're going to be missing like a real leader at the back. So from the way that the management and the staff are talking about his injury, it doesn't sound good to me. Friend of mine is a cousin of his agent. I've been tapping him up today. I'm like, what's going on with this injury? Please get me an update. I want to know how long he is going to be unavailable for. But yeah, it is gutting, isn't it? But I think this stage of the season, you're starting to get a little bit of an idea who your cards are going to be, who your main players for the next season ahead. And yeah, it's always exciting when someone you've been holding on to for a while looks like they might be creeping in. I think I had like Maximenko starting the last couple of games for Spartak. I've got his super rare. But again, I'm not confident that he's like nailed as number one there just yet. I feel like you need to hit that sort of like 10 game, when we're like 10 fixtures into the season, if he's still number one, then that's when you start to think, okay, this guy's number one.
Yeah.
But 2-3 games in, I still feel like a lot of those 50-50 chances are a bit up in the air. Do you have any kind of like any thoughts on that? Any strategies around when does it feel like someone's nailed to you?
I think I think you could tell after one game, depending on the fixture. If you watch it, you kind of see them maybe do something.
Mm.
But I'm thinking about not just Sorare cards, but just goalkeepers of teams that I support. Thinking about when they come in, and some guys can hit the ground running, and you go, "Oh yeah, he's in." And some guys you're not sure about, and they need to prove themselves, and eventually they do, or maybe they don't, and then you don't see from them again. So that's one of those ones, mate, where I think you just kind of need to take it as it comes. When it comes to Sorare, but you really do, you need to be ahead of the curve at every single turn. We had another mention of a red X in the chat from Zella Ryan. That's a huge one
Oh
as well.
yeah.
And I managed to get ahead of a Marcus Llorente. He's going now to Al Hilal today. That's getting confirmed from Atletico
Wow.
Madrid. So I had the super rare, had to get that shifted rapid as soon as I got wind of that. I actually looked like for 10 minutes today that it wasn't going to happen because one of the Atletico Madrid accounts said it's not happening, but it definitely is now, it seems.
Crazy.
But I had a kind of wee thing to come back on the red X return, if you like, when you said that, Stish. And I don't think I mentioned it on the pod last week, so I'll mention it briefly in case I did. But Pity Martinez is leaving Saudi Arabia. I don't know if I did mention it or not, but he's leaving Saudi Arabia and he's going back to River Plate, where he was formerly South America Player of the Year,
Ooh.
Libertadores winner, Ball winner, blah, blah, blah. You name it, he won it. So he's going back to River Plate. And River Plate have also signed Etienne 23's favourite striker, Brian Caladio, if that's his first name, or Facundo Caladio.
Facundo. Yeah, I've got him in my
Facundo.
gallery as
I don't know
well.
why I said Brian. So he's going to River, and it sounds like River are moving on Beltran to Porto or something. So that's a red X return for me. Martinez, he's a very low supply card, and depending on what you value a River Plate forward at, maybe he's somebody you want to look at. But probably the red X return that I'm looking forward to watching from the transfers that I've been clocking up over the last few days. It might happen. There's a wee bit of an under 23 punt as well, Stish. I know it might prick your ears up, but Mohamed Ihataren has transferred to Samsunspor in the Turkish Superliga. So if the wee guy is going to play football, then surely it's for Samsunspor. If he's, why else is he going there other than to bloody play at this point, man? I know the guy's had some personal problems. Again, people might not remember, but he went like missing for like 6 months or something, like proper MIA. Nobody knew his location and stuff. So, hopefully he's back on his feet and he's doing well. And it feels like surely this move is all about getting minutes and stuff. And the amount of talent that this guy had cooking when he was coming through academies, and I say academies plural because he's played for a lot of clubs at this point, has been huge, so he could be a guy if you've been sitting on that card or if you can get one on the fly. The Turkish calendar is really good for SO5. How often he'll play, how good he'll play, let's see. But if you believed in the guy before, this is the season to give him a shot.
Good shout that. He's been in my watch lists from being on the platform in its early days. Actually, he's a great player. One of those almost like academy legends. He's got PSV cards on the platform, hasn't he? He's made a few moves away from there since, like you said, he's had his issues. But there's a player in there if you can pick him up. And like I said, the Turkish league is good for SO5. There are a lot of fixtures. Don't they run really like when you get close to December, like Christmas time, when everything shuts down, Turkey still goes. So yeah, they're really good in that sense, aren't they? Like if you like to plan ahead. And I think planning ahead is still one of the best things you can do in this game. I really like. I think this is part of the reason why I get frustrated in game weeks like last week, where I made a silly mistake that could have won me a reward, because I see these windows between the European big leagues being closed as like the highest sort of potential to like nick a cheap win. If you've got like 4 players in the same team who've got a fixture, or you find one of those game weeks where there's like one random fixture in Brazil being played and nothing else that week, and if you so happen to have a stack of that team, and I think that the Turkish league is a great place to look for those. Obviously, leagues like the Chinese Super League is part of the reason why I've picked up quite a few cards from those leagues that are covered. But there's not a great deal of cards available of said players in those divisions. If you can pick up a couple of those, low supply cards, and the fixtures fall kindly for you in those quieter points of the season, you can clean up, or you can nick a cheap podium. You can probably hit, like in it, if Academy's still a thing come Christmas time, and you bang 4 cards in Academy and they manage to scrape 200 points together, you might find yourself nicking a fiver on a couple of teams like that as well. But yeah, I think there's so many leagues now. Like even this time last season, you might have been able to nick one in Challenger on a certain week, but now there are certain divisions now. Like this week, for example, I've got Dylan Levitt super rare, but I didn't. Unique, that has a fixture in this midweek, but I didn't have enough super rares to form a proper all-star team where I can use my unique. So the only option for that was kickoff. But I didn't want to put a strong team in kickoff. But I've put 3 cards. I've got Levitt, I've got Rafael, who's the goalkeeper at Sao Paulo, who's been scoring really well this season. So if he gets a clean sheet and Levitt puts up a big game, if he plays, you captain him. So he's got a ceiling of 150 points. And then there was another card in that lineup that's got a game as well that should play. I can't remember who it was now, but essentially I've got a 3-man lineup. If you use the Sorare Data app, it kind of says your projected position based on I guess average scores and what they expect players to score. I mean, even with those 3 players, I'm projected to finish 5th in kickoff unique. The top 3 get a prize. So if I had a 4th card, I might actually have scraped myself a unique win. Well, you still could do it now with 3 cards on a week like this where not many people are looking at that tournament. So yeah, I think those little Turkish cards, those random Chinese players that no one has on any given game week, if you can find the gaps, and I think that's it, the gaps in the numbers of entries and that. But like I said, I think there was only 20 odd entries in the unique division kickoff wise this week, but a lot of them are just they've got one player who has already DMP'd or something like that, and maybe they're just using it and hope that they can scrape together a bit of XP or something. I don't know, but yeah, a lot of those teams were void by the time the game week had even opened up. So really interesting. It's really got my brain ticking about where I'm going to be entering teams between now and we've only got a few weeks left before everything's open again, haven't we? So a couple more of these kind of cheeky game weeks you can try and nick, just trying to spot those gaps. But yeah, hope, who knows, we might even have a bit of end product in that unique division if the boys bring it home in the next couple of days. But yeah, a Red X move into Turkey is pretty decent, definitely. We're having a look at that. In other news, obviously we've spoken a little bit about some of the transfers we looked of already. Massive news, obviously the big one we've been waiting for, Cash Wallet. It started rolling out. I actually just went onto the website and a big pop-up came up. It was add your identification so that you can cash out. So it looks like, I think initially there was a couple of bits add this, add that. Do you want to accept ETH or cash or both? And I think for anyone that didn't see it, there was a bit of a thread on Twitter which explained the kind of things to expect based on your selections at this point. I personally have decided that I will continue to accept ETH and cash because from what I understand, if you accept one or the other, but not both, some of your listings won't be seen by people who are only paying with cash. Did you see that, Quinny?
Yeah. So the main, they do a very good job of explaining it all on the blog in terms of, if you select this, your listing will be viewable and buyable by these people, etc., etc. I think the settings of what you want to do as a buyer, I think that's probably quite changeable. I think you can probably fuck around with it enough. I've just kind of set it up like yourself, just remain as is, But the where the kinks in this is going to come in is when the majority of the secondary market is people running on cash,
Yeah.
and there's still a vibrant population of the secondary market that still runs on Ethereum, depending on how they receive their thresholds, because that will also control a lot of people's, let's say, primary wallet decision. If you
Mm.
decide to get your thresholds in Ethereum or in your currency, because both wallets, but they'll be basically siloed off as separate things. So the problem that will become is once you've got enough of the, let's say, the secondary market that is cash only, and you hold an Ethereum wallet, you won't be able to buy off them without doing the full withdrawal process and
Mm.
then coming back
Manual
into the
cash.
coming
Got
back into the system. Because if you hold ETH and someone wants only cash, you can't buy from them with your Ethereum. You know, you would need to convert Ethereum into cash. Sorry, aren't doing that on site, of course, because it's not an exchange. So you need to take it away and bring it back. And that's not a problem really the now, I don't think, because I think anyone's wallet pre this change is Ethereum that's in it. I don't think Sorare are going to categorize it historically. So anyway, from this point forward, it is going to be really interesting to watch over the next year, maybe even 2 years. You know, what is the it's I think it might even become a war's maybe not quite the word, right? But a kind of a thing that will be imbalanced for a while, and it will cause a lot of frustration for, I probably suspect, more people that are listening to this podcast than not listening to it. If you've
Mm.
got Ethereum and then you're coming across people that have signed up tomorrow and they've picked cash only, screw your crypto stuff, you know, and then you're going to try and buy a card off them. It's just not going to happen. So I think it's more us that will probably be getting the teething pains of this, or the growing pains, or whatever you want to think of it as. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention on the podcast regarding the cash wallet. Is great and it's fantastic, and it seems to do so far to this point basically everything you kind of wanted it to. But now that we see the details in it, for me, that's the main crease that I
Mm.
think is going to detract from quality of life. The fact that you don't have the ability to just buy anything from anyone,
Yeah.
regardless of really how you're holding your currency. And I agree, the cash wallet is massively innovative, and it's, you know, trailblazing. That's kind of what I was kind of thinking and repeating when I was reading it all yesterday. But I think what I had expected it to probably be is that next step up from where it is, in that sense of your wallet could have absolutely anything in it, and it doesn't matter. You can buy and sell and trade with
Very cool.
anyone. It doesn't matter. Because for me, the main advantage Ethereum gives the platform is that, and this is very understated, is that it does not matter what country in the world that you're in, the Ethereum price is the Ethereum price. Whereas now, as time goes on, the creases and the wrinkles on every individual's perspective is going to take a few different layers, like, you
Mm.
know, your
Exchange
dollar,
rates and things. Yeah.
your dollar vision, your euro vision, pound in Ethereum and whatever, um, is then going to come into play with it as well. Whereas I like, and again, some of the options that come into this, I do just want to list, and you know, let's see how time goes on. It probably won't matter as much, but I like the idea better of listing in an Ethereum amount that is neutral of dollars and euros and yens and every native currency that's not even represented yet in the cash wallet, because that is a universal kind of thing. And the problem you've got, and I'll finish the wee rant, obviously, is that the man walking down the street doesn't know the price of Ethereum. So it's that's the main problem with it. And the man walking down the street doesn't want to know the price of Ethereum, doesn't want to Google it or anything.
True.
So I get that. But for me, that was one of the things that gave the marketplace a real fluidity. You didn't need to, because now, like, I'm sure the display is always going to give me the visual of what I want to see.
Yeah.
But as you know, when you're dealing with people, if I'm going to Discord DM somebody and we're going to discuss a super rare, like, we know Ethereum rates, no problem. We can discuss it easy
Yeah.
peasy, even though the language barrier is incredible between us both. You can say 0.1, except, you know, like, you can get some of that stuff across. And as time goes on, that aspect of the game is probably going to be diluted away.
True. True. Because I think the way that you can see this going as well is, obviously this is the first step. I think the end goal here is to, you know, still be built on Ethereum, but essentially everyone will be paying or seeing prices in their local currency, and the Ethereum will be to, you know, it's built. It needs to be built on the blockchain to work the way that it does, and for things to be tradable and permissionless, and own your game. Like you can't own your game if Sorare own all the assets. So, but yeah, it's I think a big step. Going to be really interested to speak to some of my friends who are a little bit more like the casual players, like my brother-in-law, people that like miss game week after game week, and I have to remind them when they're doing. But just to let them know, because I know my brother couldn't buy a card on auction recently, and I think it's because he was trying to use a card. And I don't personally use card to buy cards, so I couldn't really help him. But I told him, this cash wallet will be coming soon, so I might give him a shout and say like, try and buy a card, or tell me if it works like it used to, because the way I understand it, it should. But to also touch on that point you made about ETH, cash, all that kind of stuff. I saw a good tweet, I think it was from McBride, or a retweet from McBride, which was a question that someone was asking about how things will be like priced on the market based on your selections. And I think if you are like an ETH only acceptor, or anything you price on the market will be locked to ETH. So if it's like 0.05, regardless of whether ETH goes up or down in price, that's always going to be 0.05, and then whatever people want to see in pounds or dollars might change based on Ethereum moving. But the other way around, if I accept cash and I list my card for £5, the £5 will always stay the same, but people will see the ETH change based on the ETH rate, which is interesting, because it means that some people's card prices will be locked, and some will be like flexible based on the market, the shifts in the market, and whatever your sort of acceptance is. But as someone who is I'm quite willing to use ETH or cash. I still don't know what I will accept my rewards in either. I'm not really thought that far ahead on it, but because I've got a balance in ETH, I'm quite happy to continue playing the way that I have been. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see like these little nuances popping up.
See what I'm just trying to work out, because I remember, like, see way back when I first started playing Sorare, and crypto was like, or Ethereum especially, was like a totally different animal to what it is now. I used to pay attention to the exchange rates, not just of Ethereum, but Ethereum in pounds, Ethereum in dollars, and then pounds versus dollars as well. And I'm thinking about this as well, and I'm thinking, like, I don't know. I maybe need to look a wee bit more into why the pound against the dollar is down quite a bit. I maybe need to go and do some real research. So I'm thinking maybe I want my thresholds paid out in a dollar value, because if it's paid out in a dollar value, if the pound gets better against the dollar, that could be a nice thing that will just get better anyway over time.
I mean,
I want ETH. Will ETH appreciate more? You know, so that's a wee complexity for the deep end players, I think, to think about is Forex.
Yeah, it seems to be creeping back up again. I've just had a little look at like the historic value over the last 5 years, and the pound versus the dollar has been getting absolutely hammered until about this, like towards the end of last year. But since September, when it hit like a record low of like $1.08 to the pound, it's crept back up, and it's now like 1.27. So yeah, that is an interesting point. And I think that's an issue that's like when you're really trying to like extract value from the game. I think as like playing the game, trying to make money from it, which a lot of people do. That's what, probably attracted a lot of people to the game initially. I think I was definitely one of them people that like, oh, this sounds like a fun way to try and make some Ethereum or some money. And then as you get into it, you become a little bit more into the gaming side of it, and you think a bit less about the money side. The money side's always there, because I think if you take the money away from it, the engagement, the excitement's not quite the same, right? It's a bit like having a bet with your mate with no money. You don't really care what happens unless like bragging rights or like have some palpable value to you. But yeah, it's I think an interesting thing, but I do think that over time, I think they'd like to slowly get ETH all the way off the platform, and it would just be like the underlying asset that things are built on. I don't know. That's my feelings on it. I think
they would rather it was the other way around, but they're kind of forced into
Like, I'm sure.
The
people that built this would have loved it to have stayed on ETH, but I think that they know it would take ETH to be like the mass adoption of cryptocurrency is probably not going to come about. Not like we thought it would when this was built, right? Everything's going nicely. People are earning money. Everyone's jumping into crypto. For the last couple of years, we've had the polar opposite of that, where it's still getting bad press. People don't really understand why anyone would need to hold these assets or what they're used for, or why anyone needs them. And I think over time, I think the way that governments are being run all over the world, this is almost like a politics podcast now, but crypto makes more sense than people realize at the moment. But it will be in in third country environments, the third world, like those countries that have adopted it for payment and for like transfer of funds across borders and stuff like that. They understand why this is better than the money that their government is printing at ridiculous rates, because it becomes worthless to them. Long story short, I think, mass adoption of crypto will probably happen in our lifetimes, but probably, Sorare can't wait like for 20 years for that to happen. They need to act now and get the users on board. And I think positively, this is the move that they needed to make, right? So they can start rolling this out to a proper mainstream audience, and hopefully not too late before the new season starts. How do you feel on the sort of timing of this? Is this going to be, we're going to have enough time to get that big push now? And is all the content going to be coming about, can this compete with FPL now, or are we going to be waiting another season, do you think?
I think they have to be going for this year. I don't think there's any two ways about it. I found it interesting, something Dan said on the Sorare Data podcast. I forget exactly what he said, but something made me think that the big push was going to commence like more September time, if you know what I mean. Like he said something, and it made me think about, like, as we all know, actual football computer games don't come out first day of the season. They come out after the transfer window, so that, and I'm thinking about Football Manager and FIFA, because they want all the players in the right teams and they want everything all set out before they release the game for the full season, So he said something, I can't remember, I forget what it was, but that was the little chord that struck in the back of my head is, they're maybe lining up launch, in air quotes, more against FIFA, Football Manager vibes rather than FPL match of the day one of the season kind of effort. So I don't know if they maybe rethought that, because they did seem to say on the stream as well, like, we could actually maybe move that forward a couple of days, because they were talking about FPL players sharing their teams, and the common draft isn't even open yet. But again, the common draft, like, do they have pictures? Where's the new signings? Is every player available? It's one of those ones you don't want to launch it half baked, but it did sound like it was pretty ready, and they had maybe the potential to bring it forward if that would have been better for all. So I think it definitely has to be this year. But from what that kind of little chunk was from Dan, whatever it was, it made me think this. I think it might be a little bit like match day 2, match day 3 of the season is when the heat gets turned up.
I think so long as they are good in the way that they communicate how the game works, and it's not like the get your team in now and like make sure you play every game of the season, otherwise you're going to fall behind. So long as they make it clear to anyone that might be interested in it that it don't matter if you get in on match day 1, because every game is a match, is like a whole, it's like every game is a whole season, comparable to FPL. Like you can come in on match day 3, and it doesn't matter if you miss the first 2 games, apart from in these long format game modes, which I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about. Obviously, they've touched on these monthly game modes they're going to be doing, but we might see a full season FPL one with an amazing prize at the end of it. Who knows? But I'm sure the next couple of weeks we'll see loads of updates. Now, I feel like this has been the thing they've been trying to get done, right? It feels like they've been waiting to do this for ages. Like does it feel like a year since we started talking about moving over to a fiat wallet? It used to be called the fiat wallet, didn't it? In the way that was mentioned. And I feel like we've been talking about this for a year, and now it's here.
Longer. I think this has been probably on the part of the valuation of Sorare as well. You've got to think because like the business has to be, so businesses are always valued in terms of, like assets, cash flow, and like what it has, what you're actually giving over. And definitely the potential Sorare's had to be like this kind of innovator and produce revolutionary technology in the field of payments online, cross-border, cross-currency or whatever. I think it's been firmly in the laboratory, if you know what I mean, for like ages. It's, how to bring the crypto part of it into normality, how to make it an everyday accessibility. I think that, Sorare's been quite clearly to all of us the one company in this space that is very clearly not as correlated to the foundation of that industry as much as it is, detached from it. So for it to have that kind of immunity, and it's not got complete immunity from like the bear market and all the cycles that the crypto stuff goes through, but as we know, it definitely isn't to the same extent, for better and for worse. It doesn't fall down as hard as the general, and it doesn't pop up as high. So I think they've probably been working on it for ages, and I think you're right. Like, they would definitely, I think they've been itching to do it yesterday, in air quotes, forever.
Yeah, I think that they'll be super happy that it's rolled out. And from what I can see, like, I've got the site up in front of me now. It's asking me to add my ID, which I can't really do while we're on a podcast. But it was very easy to just like, what's your name, what's your address, what's your date of birth, or what's your name and date of birth. I don't know if it asks my address, email address, and it's just asking me, like many sites do. Once you add a bank, we need to see passport or driver's license. So yeah, I'm going to do that and try myself to like add some funds into the cash balance and see the KYC, go through that and see how it works, just so that I can tap up my brother and be like, have you done this yet? Give it a go, see if it works. But yeah, it looks like it works. I think the big thing has always been like off ramp as well. Like, it's going to be easy for people to cash out now, which has never been easy to do, even for people who use crypto. We all have to admit it is a pain to move your ETH from Sorare onto your MetaMask, and from MetaMask onto like a third-party trading app that links to your bank. And then you do the KYC at that point, right? With like Binance in my case, or whichever kind of, Coinbase is probably a popular one, right? But this just makes it so much easier. And yeah, it feels like if this works the way that it should, this now becomes a very different product and proposition to people who like playing Football Manager or FPL or FIFA. This is like, you don't need to mention crypto to them or NFTs. It may as well be FIFA cards for as far as most people are concerned, right? So yeah, I'm buzzing for it. I think it be really interesting in the next few days to see what the kind of like market activity is like on the secondary and on the auctions. If we see a little bit of a spike and an uptick on people who maybe haven't been able to buy stuff for a little while because of the credit card situation. And yeah, keen for it. Definitely going to have all eyes on that. I'm sure Laird and the gang at Sorare Data will be able to fill us in on like any progresses on the kind of like market activity once the news and word gets out on this cash wallet becoming nice and easy for everyone. So yeah, it feels like a relief. I feel like a weight has been lifted. That we've got this out of the way now. We can get excited about what might be again. We're all in the community been waiting for this for a while, and it's like, yeah, what time to kick on from here? We can move on to the next step on the roadmap. But yeah, I'm expecting a lot of announcements in the next couple of weeks. Any that you're particularly excited for, Quinny? Are you kind of interested in seeing how these like long format games roll out and bits and pieces?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the monthly leaderboards will go and because we've got the stadiums coming, we've got all that kind of stuff coming, right? And they definitely know one of the main value adds for them as a game, for us as players, that the monthly thing should give, or there has to be incorporated into the game at some point, is some sort of status that can be garnered, like from playing this all the time and from being good at it, where you can say like, oh, I'm a top 10 limited player, I'm a top 10 all-star limited player, I'm a top 15 under 23 player, or and then you could maybe even could get to the extent of like boxing, pound for pound, could be cross scarcity, cross scarcity, I'm the best Challenger Europe player on win ratios, or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think so. I'm quite excited to see how that comes out in terms of not just the reward pool and all that kind of stuff, but exactly, the touches that go around these formats and how they're going to actually deliver it the Sorare way, as it were. And it's not just going to be like it's just a new leaderboard and it's just a new competition. Like how does this make my club better if I win this, or if I finish top 50, or if I finish top 100 consecutively, or whatever.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all evolves, isn't it? Because I think like I was always surprised when like the whole esports thing started to kick off, and it's like, are people really going to watch someone playing computer games? And now you look at that industry and think, wow, like it's way bigger than I ever thought it would be. When you watch kids playing like League of Legends, and they have the World Finals in like Las Vegas or in the Staples Center, and there's like 30,000 people watching a group of people play games on a desktop computer on a huge screen. It's like, yeah, crazy how big these things can get. But I just wonder if there is a future somewhere where people support their favorite like Sorare managers, and they have like merch lines and like, oh, is that a wild thought, or is that where we're headed now? I don't know. Can you imagine?
Sounds like a good future for FC Barcelona.
Yeah. What would the FC Barcelona home shirt look like?
I don't know. Well, the badge has got a wee funky kind of teal and purple colour scheme on the go. So I don't know if we could make something cool with that. Maybe something to think about. Get the missus on that one.
Yeah.
Get some shirts and some hats.
Get some shirts designed. It'd be quite cool to be able to start selling merch like on your own actual club shop. Start bringing in the coins, man. Maybe you could start that there, we were talking about on I put out a tweet. I was saying like some ideas of like ways they could generate new income without like the kind of training and selling the regeneration packs and all this stuff that they're going to start doing. And I thought, well, maybe that's it. Maybe they set up a manufacturing distribution center for Sorare managers to release their own club merchandise, which is paid for in coins or cash, and then other managers can use their cash, and they can work as a third party, mailing it out, taking their cut of the of the sales. So it is a bit like, I don't know if people have ever used a site called Spreadshirt. I think it's called Spreadshirt, but it used to be basically like it still exists, I'm pretty sure, but it was aimed at like musicians and people who need to sell merchandise. So they have like all the blanks on the website, and it's like upload your logo or whatever and design this mug or whatever, and then you can make a shop, and it's like, this mug is now on sale, but nothing's manufactured until someone buys it. So you buy it and they roll it off the printer and it goes out in the package. It's like, can you imagine if Sorare started doing that? It's like, right.
See exactly what you said, Stish, married up with what McGettigan has said in the live chat here. If you did that with physical copies of your card, you could just like spend 500 soul coins or spend a fiver and almost like moonpig it, like just just cards, makes your card and ships it out to you, and it comes in a nice wee thing, and it's like a set size, and it becomes a thing. Maybe that'd be cool.
My son's got his own like little personalized like FIFA card, which we designed.
I've seen people with them. Yeah, I've seen them.
You can do them online. They're a good little Christmas gift, right? Maybe you can make your own Sorare card. I know there's website, I can't remember what one it is, but there is a website where you can mock up your own Sorare card. You can put a picture on it and that without having to download it and do it yourself on Photoshop. But yeah, like your actual cards, I don't know like what the kind of legalities of that are, but yeah, I mean, it's just like foam backed cardboard, isn't it? You can just bang it up on your wall, like a little Cherky behind me or something like that.
I suppose with like, say, like Panini and tops, they definitely would need to make it some sort of funky dimension to make sure it's not like cutting their grass,
Yeah.
It need to be like magazine size or something.
That's true. Can you imagine the postage that they'd have to put up for that? It'd be horrendous.
Pure speculation from me, by the way, just thinking out loud.
Yeah. And yeah, likewise. But it'd be interesting to see how that rolled out. Something that came to mind that I haven't brought up yet, and I wanted to see if you saw it, which I loved in the week, was I don't know if he's in the chat. He is in here sometimes, but K Sorare spotted in the week during the Atletico Madrid pre-season game with the K-League All-Stars that there was an embrace between Griezmann and Seo Young-woo, who plays for Ulsan. and he was playing in the game, and he made a kind of like beeline from at the end of the game. And there's all these photos of Griezmann and him having a good laugh, and obviously there was huge press interest after the game. Like, how do you know each other, or like what did he say to you? And Seo Young-woo has come out and said, "Oh, he told me that he has my card in a football game," and basically Griezmann made a beat. He wanted his shirt after the game. He's like, because he has his super rare on so rare. I thought that was so cool. I was like, I've got his super rare as well. So I felt like Griezmann for a minute. I was like, but I think that's amazing that even professional footballers that, World Cup winning professional footballers like Antoine Griezmann are that excited to meet a player that 90% of the world's football fans would have no idea who this kid is or why anyone has any interest in him. Yeah, Antoine Griezmann made a beeline for him, wanted his shirt. It wasn't the other way around. It was Griezmann wanted his shirt, and he was like, "Can I have yours?" And it was like, "Yeah, like meet me after the game." That was definitely one of the best things I've seen on the timeline. It's right up there with that video clip of Kenneth Taylor after Ajax won the league last season, running in asking all the players how their Sorare teams got on. But yeah, I think things like that are so good. Like for the platform, they will open eyes to the platform. I think the more that players can talk about how excited they are to play, like Antoine Griezmann must be a full-blown Sorare nerd if he's like, we know he's got a gallery, but he genuinely cares. Like he's obviously got that same affection for his gallery that we have. Like once you've owned that player and you're following their season and checking their results, and if you're at home, you get the game up online, watch it. Yeah, I thought that was amazing, and hopefully we see more of that. Did you see that, Quinny? What did you think of it?
Oh, it was quality, mate. I loved it. And yeah, echo everything you say. I think Griezmann, PK, there's a few of them, Werner, that have been like pretty decent, like Sorare fans. Also, the Dutch lads, Taylor, Klassen, and Blind and all that. Love it as well. And, how much more of that are we going to see throughout the season? Like, see when it comes to like wacky Europa League games or something like that. Like, imagine, I don't know who Griezmann's got in his gallery, but like, not just Griezmann, but some other players. I'm sure it'll be something that comes up a wee bit more. And it's one of those next level things about Sorare that it's just beautiful, man. I love it.
Yeah, even another thing as well. Like, I was in Croatia on the weekend, as I mentioned, and the driver that picked me up from the airport to take me to the festival site was a big football fan, and we were talking about Croatia, and there was a couple of other lads in the van sort of throwing in names and talking about Chelsea and stuff like that. And we had a really in-depth conversation about Baturina, and he was saying that he thinks he's going to Arsenal. Apparently, they're after him, and obviously, he said to me, like, how do you know about this guy then? Like, where have you seen him? Because he's still quite young and he's playing in the Croatian league. And how would you know about this guy? And I was like, oh, I play this game called Sorare. And everyone in the van's like, yeah, but why are you watching Croatian football? I'm like, I was trying to explain how, like, when certain players start scoring big on the platform, the alarm bells start pinging off. Oh, should I pick that player up? Should I pick this person up? And I was having it does, doesn't it? It kind of makes you a football nerd by proxy. You can talk about players from all over the world that no one else knows about. So you find yourself in those situations where you're in Croatia and some guy's trying to school you on like some kids that are coming out, and you're there going, "Oh yeah, I know about him. Yeah, well, that Zagreb players. Yeah, okay. What about this guy? Where's Livakovic going this season? Is he going to move?" Like, like, I love I love being able to nerd out with people from other countries, particularly.
What did they say about Livakovic? What did they say?
They love him over there. He's like, they didn't say that. No one knows where he's going. I think he's been linked everywhere, isn't he, at the moment? But he's he. When I went into the town, they had all the fake football shirts up, and you got Modric, Gvardiol, Livakovic. They had the goalie kits. They'd like. Yeah, it was cool to see. They're obviously a big footballing fan base out there, and yeah, I did see some absolutely banging fake shirts out there as well. They were like You know, when the fake shirts are so fake that they're not even like the real shirt. There was like tie-dye versions of this season's PSG kit with like 3D effect Mbappe on the back of it and stuff like
Yeah.
about some belters, mate. Sometimes those fake shirts are so good that you have to buy them. My son's got one that I think my mum bought for him on holiday. She come back with it and it's like a Barca Messi kit, but it's like skull and crossbones all over it. It's like, it's
So
really
cool.
fake, but it's so fake it's good. It's like I respect that. I respect that level of fake. When it's just a really poor attempt at the actual kit, it's you swerve it. But if it's so fake, it's like entertaining, then pick it up all day long. But yeah, definitely saw a few of them the weekend. More of them than actual attempts on the real kits, to be fair. But yeah, that was me the weekend. Mike of Pompey asking if this is a football shirt I'm wearing now. It is actually. This is I can't remember if it's the home or away, but this is Athens Kalatea shirt from last season. Little Kappa number. I think this is the away shirt. I think the home shirt's white. I'd have to look it up, but yeah, all their shirt similar to like Venezia. They've got Kappa on board to like give them the rebrand and make them look cool. So all of their product launches look like really cool looking models as opposed to the actual footballers wearing the kit. So it always looks very high fashion. So I got sucked straight in. Rapture 4D, shout out. Rapture's Olympiakos, yeah. Olympiakos fan. Yeah, we're waiting for that Greek coverage to come through. We need Laszlo Kleinheisler, the legend of the podcast, to come back into the fray. He's a blue X at the moment, Quinny. I've been able to use him in some of the qualifiers for the European rounds, but he's finding it a bit hard to get off the bench at the minute, sadly. With Laszlo Kleinheisler. But definitely my favourite name, I think, in the gallery, that one.
By a long distance.
Yeah, it's a good one. What else have we got to talk about, Quinn? I just seen like we're clocked in at an hour and 9 minutes already. So it's flown by today.
Time flies when you're having fun, Stishy. We've still got the weekend, mate. We have still got the return of real end product. I've got
here it comes.
So I've got a little bit of a dilemma, right? Goalkeepers across my gallery have been getting slaughtered for the last 2 seasons, and I've not really been replacing them too thoroughly. And I'm really threadbare on goalkeepers. Anyway, told you the horror story at the beginning of the podcast about the last couple of weeks. Coming into this week, I've only really got Joe Hart as a rare that's nailed on to play this week. And I've got Celtic cards coming out my backside. Never mind some championship cards, a couple of guys in Denmark, and a few guys in a few other places and whatever. So this is going to be, for me, like this weekend, I'm mad excited. McBride will be in the studio with me. We'll maybe throw the door open, see if anyone else is up for it. For the first game of the season, should be good crack. But for me, it's going to be by force of nature. Or not force of nature. That's the wrong way of saying it. But by force, I'm not doing it through decision. I'm going to have I'm going to have like no teams out. So it's going to be like the buffest squad I can possibly try and fire out. So I better bloody win something this weekend.
Listen, I'm ready. The end product is going to start raining as soon as Celtic start playing again. That smile on Quinny's face is going to start looking like that of the Cheshire Cat. I guarantee we're going to have some big end product in the coming weeks, especially before a lot of the other leagues open up and Celtic can become the SO5 powerhouse that we all know they can be. What do you reckon, Quinny? Are Celtic going to win it again this season? Is this going to be another big one? Anyone that we should be looking out for in the division this season?
I'll say 2 things on this, right? Number 1, I think Rangers will be better than last year, right? And on that note, we mentioned transfers earlier. I never mentioned it before. If you look at Cantwell's scores and the price trajectory Cantwell's went on, okay. Rangers have signed Danilo from Feyenoord, and they've got a few other strikers, right? But like, if one of them's going to come good, I think Sima is still quite well priced. If you're interested, I think he's only on loan from Brighton. Don't know how his minutes will play out. Rangers fans I speak to like the look of Dessers so far. But Danilo, like, was a proven challenger forward anyway at the best of times at Feyenoord, former Ajax kid, if I remember rightly as well. And, I think he could be on for an absolute stonker. I think Celtic will still win the league, of course. I think we're going to be just about good enough, but we do need to get some business done pronto. But this season in Scotland, it is going to come down to the derbies. I expect Celtic Rangers to beat everyone this year, which will be great for SO5 for Celtic, obviously. But it will be the derbies that decide the title this year.
Yeah, I'll be watching keenly. Definitely going to get up to a few fixtures as well, Quinny. I know we were speaking off air. 100%, we'll be getting some end product IRL link ups this season. Make the trip up north of the border and come and see what you guys have got cooking at Celtic Park. 100%.
And I've been excited to see as well, sorry to interrupt you, Stishy, but I've been excited to see in pre-season as well, Hudson Edward looks to be the main man at Palace.
Yeah, he does.
He's been playing a bit, man. He's been playing a fair bit, so I'll be looking forward to getting to Palace this year with that unique.
Yeah, I think, like Zaha out the way, you might see, obviously if they can hold on to Elise, who's probably going to miss the beginning of the season, probably miss a fair bit of the beginning of the season as well. Eze looks red hot pre-season. He's on fire at the moment.
Red hot.
He is going to be some card this season, I think, Eze. If Palace keep him, of course. We don't need him move into a club where he's going to be rotated. But yeah, I fancy Edouard to become, this is going to be his season to stake his claim as like the nailed on centre forward for Palace. So yeah, hopefully you get some utility there.
Palace with Stish. Go get some
goals
in.
Get down there. Yeah, we'll come and get some jerk chicken and then a bit of fried chicken after. We like a bit of Caribbean down here in Crystal Palace, mate. My local.
Bob Marley territory is always good for me.
Yes, yeah. Was definitely be something in the air when you come down, mate. I'm sure of that. We'll welcome you with open arms, mate. But yeah, that'd be a fun day out. We'll definitely sort a little Palace game or two out. Yeah, bit of Southern hospitality for you. We'll try and get in amongst the ultras. That'll be fun. You'll enjoy that. You'll feel right at home, mate.
Big time.
Nice.
Well, have you got teams this weekend to take it out?
I'm piecing mine together at the moment, and one of the things that I am quite happy about is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that there are a few games in Korea, particularly, that are right, that hour before the game week starts. So I'll be able to check a few of my options before the deadline's closed. So I'm hoping I don't have to do too much rejigging, but at the moment I have a really good looking U23 Super Rare team, which currently has O'Reilly as a captain. Yeah, Rascal Masaki saying 2 Friday matches 30 minutes after deadline. So we'll be able to see the FC Seoul team sheet. Yeah, that's a big one for me, because Baek Jongbom didn't start the last game, but Rascal might be able to shed a bit more light on that. I was surprised by that and would expect to see him back in, unless there's something going on that we don't know about. So I'll be keeping a keen eye on that team sheet coming out before the deadline. And if Baek Jongbom and Lee Han-bom are both starting, then U23 Super Rare is going to be my main point of interest this game week. And then I think All-Star Super Rare, if Levitt looks like he's going to be starting, I'll be looking forward to putting something strong in there. I think having a unique available always gets you excited for those Super Rare tournaments. So my U23 Rare, as it stands, is looking pretty hot as well. So yeah, I've still got a few teams to piece together. At the moment, I've got more goalkeepers than I need, which is an unusual problem to have. But because I won quite a few goalkeeper cards, I've got a bunch of goalkeepers that may or may not play. So yeah, I'm actually going to end up with goalkeepers that I can't even use, I think. So I might end up with some pretty tasty academy teams that are made up of like multiple card scarcities. That's one thing that you can now do, I guess, if you do have too many goalkeepers. It always feels like a bit of a waste to have goalkeepers that you can't use in your teams. I've never had this problem before, but yeah, the alternative is go out and buy more cards, which yeah, I'm trying not to do, but I often do get sucked back into the market buying those risky cards that end up on the bench after 2 games that I've used them in or something like that. But hopefully don't do any more of that in this next few weeks. Hopefully I can ride it out and we can have some success, bit of end product with a bit of luck. But yeah, feeling pretty good about my teams this game week. Definitely excited to get some use out of Matt O'Reilly. You've kind of helped me nail on that decision there.
Big time. You'll storm it this weekend.
He'll be strong and captained in what should be my strongest team, so long as FC Saul don't mess me about too much. But like I said, we've got that team sheet there, so I think I'll know, how competitive that team can be, because it definitely, in U23, I need Bait Jongbom to start. He's the only U23 goalkeeper option I've got, especially now Tanny's red X'd. All of my hopes lie on him now. So I've only realistically got until January, I think the K-League season usually finishes. So got to get them rewards in. Hopefully win a Super Rare goalkeeper for U23. But that will definitely take a big, that'll be a first place finish if you win a goalkeeper, I think, at U23. So yeah. Good luck, mate. I'll be watching Celtic eagle-eyed on the weekend, and hope you have a good one and good luck. And definitely, I feel like there's something in the water, Quinny, and we'll be celebrating big time this time next week on the podcast. Which I'm actually going to be on holiday next week in Mallorca.
Nice.
So I'll be in Mallorca for the next week and a bit, but I won't rule anything out, mate. We might be able to jump on and get an episode in still. Be nick an hour.
On location.
As long as the Wi-Fi is good enough, we'll make it happen, mate. Like I said, on location. Maybe from my balcony, if it's not too noisy. We might do a little might give you a little blast from the balcony. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate. I think we've got a lot. We had a lot to talk about this week.
Big one for sure. Pleasure. Fist bump to everyone in the chat. It's been a good one. Good luck this weekend.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.